Oh my goodness, has it been a while? If you're listening, hello, welcome back. As you guys know, it's been about a 3 month hiatus of Sports Talk Mostly podcast due to, as we know, COVID-19 closures across the nation, actually across the globe, um, pretty much halted all sports activity known to man. We missed out on so much stuff. Like, obviously, multiple NBA games. We should be in NBA finals right now. NHL hockey was canceled. McDonald's All American High School basketball game was canceled. MLB major and minor leagues were canceled. I could go on and on and on and on. High school spring sports pretty much canceled all throughout the nation. I don't think any high school spring sports got to play at all, as well as collegiate spring sports. I don't believe anybody got to play. I think that there was a little bit of collegiate baseball and softball that was just starting to get kicked off right when everything started to close. But other than that, sports stopped at like March 20th-ish. So the fact that the podcast is even back is a huge deal. And we do have some sports news. So we'll start with that. We're going to stay with the regular podcast format of news, interview, culture. And hopefully you guys liked that. And if you don't know or haven't noticed or don't follow the show on social media, you should do that. But also, I announced a new installment for the show called Secret Segment. And that is a separate interview with every episode's interview guest. And basically just covering 10 random questions, kind of like rapid fire with the interview guest. And those questions are going to allow you guys to get to know the interview guests just a little bit better. So these first few episodes back are going to be a little bit shorter than episodes have been in the past. Obviously, we don't have a whole lot to talk about, but want to just keep things concise and really focus on the things that need attention, so to speak. And of course, the classic cat is back. I don't know if you guys could hear that. The cat is messing with some stuff. So if you have been a long time Sports Talk Mostly podcast listener, you know that because I create the podcast from my home, DIY podcast life. My cat Enyo is a pretty big part of distractions that come along with the show. So sorry in advance if you don't like the cat, but she's here to stay, so it is what it is. But this episode is really exciting for me. I have Nitzan Bluvstein from, actually she's a freelancer with The Athletic. She's going to be the interview portion today, talking about her fund that she just started with her co-founder. Want Not Need Fund is the name of that, and she's just going to talk a little bit about that in the interview, so make sure to stick around and catch that. Definitely don't want you guys to miss out on that. And of course, the train's coming by now too. No Sports Talk Mostly podcast would be complete without the cat or the train. So it is what it is. I feel like every single time I start filming, either one of these things just kind of presents themselves. So anyways, like I said, kicking off with a little bit of news. We had UFC 250 last weekend, and that was the big fights. There were Assunção versus Garbrandt and Nunes versus Spencer. I think everybody thought that Nunes versus Spencer would kind of be a shoe-in for Nunes. Obviously Spencer's tough, but Nunes held her 5 rounds and came out with a W on that one. She is the first female UFC fighter to hold one title while defending the other title. So she has had a challenger for one of her titles that she actually defeated the challenger. So she's the first female fighter to ever do that. Definitely big ups to Nunes on that. She's so tough, man. Ronda Rousey paved the way for a lot of people, but Nunes has just proved to be like so true to form and so, you know, walks it like she talks it, man. You know, that's no diss to Ronda. Obviously, Ronda is a tough woman. But I think Nunes does it just a little bit better than Ronda. So don't hate me for that. But that's my opinion. Assunção versus Garbrandt, that was a great fight. I thought it would be a little bit more competitive than it actually turned out to be. I don't know if you guys caught that, but I thought that Garbrandt KO is definitely eligible for KO of the year as far as UFC yearly awards go. I think that was just a crazy hit. I mean, I don't know, like I said, if you guys saw it, but Garbrandt pretty much just kept his eyes on the prize, bent down, came back up swinging. It didn't take his eyes off of Assunção for not even a second and just clocked him right in the jaw and put him out. Afterwards, they tried to sit Assunção on a stool, and poor guy, he couldn't even sit correctly on the stool. They pulled him off the stool and told him to sit back down on the octagon floor. So that was definitely amusing. Great set of fights there. Just my personal take, I think it's super weird, so quiet with no fans in the arena. Obviously, it's necessary given the circumstances of everything right now, but just super weird. And also, I mean, I have to tip my hat to Bruce Buffer. I think that he does such an incredible job of still putting on the show that people want to see from Bruce Buffer, but doesn't change up the fact that he's not talking to anybody in the audience. So I think it would be really hard to keep that same enthusiasm without audience members. And he does a really good job of it. So shouts to Bruce Buffer for that. Also, about a month or so ago, we had UFC 249. It was the second fight we saw from Pettis and Cerrone. And then we also had Justin Gaethje versus Ferguson. And Pettis defeated Cerrone. Gaethje defeated Ferguson. Personally, I wasn't surprised by either one of those. So, again, super great fights. Those were the ones that were in Florida. Those were the first of the UFC fights during COVID-19, with the Florida Athletic Commission being a little bit more lenient than the other states as far as their regulations go for holding athletic events. So that's the reason that was allowed to happen at such a soon time, so to speak. If you're not watching on video, I put air quotes around soon time because I don't think that it was soon at all. I think that a lot of these sports could have continued without fans. I mean, not team sports, but these individual type sports with one-on-one fighters. I think a lot of them could have continued without fans, but I do appreciate the precautions taken by all the various, presidents, aka Dana White, to just kind of keep the athletes safe, keep everybody, keep the risk of lawsuits down. You don't want anybody getting sick and then suing you because they participated in an athletic event at your hands. So, lots of different factors here that are influencing the way that these things are carried out. So it's definitely going to be curious to see how UFC continues to work around the various regulations in every state that they intend to hold fights in, or location, I guess, they tend to hold fights in. So, also big news, like kind of I just mentioned at the beginning of the show, the return of the NBA. It sounds like they were first slated to come back July 30th. Sounds like they're going to maybe start a little bit sooner on July 29th or 30th, which is only 1 or 2 days, obviously, but the sooner the better, in my opinion. If you listen to the interview later on with Nitz, you will hear some of her opinions about that, which I don't disagree with. But it's going to be curious. I think a lot of the players want to play, but definitely, it's got to be so hard containing, 1,500 people to like stay in isolation during the time that they're going to carry out the rest of the season and playoffs. I don't know. Just seems like a lot of work. Seems like a lot of work. So hopefully everybody can stay healthy. But finals would end like right around mid-October. Going to be 22 teams, 8 games before playoffs start. Traditional conference-based playoffs are going to happen once playoffs does start. And then after all of this ends, the 2020-2021 season would start December 1st. So next year's season would obviously start, I think, a couple of months. Usually season starts at the beginning of October. So makes everything a little weird from here on out for the next year or so, but at least we get basketball back. I think I was talking to somebody earlier about this, but this whole thing has just been so weird because typically when anything is shut down or anything like that, we have sports to turn to and kind of occupy our time and our minds. And with sports shut down too, you don't get that. So the distraction that sports provides has not been here. And I think that's been tough for a lot of people. It's been tough for myself. So definitely going to be nice to have the NBA back. There's also been talk of potential return of the WNBA, which would mean a potential late July start timeframe for the WNBA, if that does happen. And their player payments, guaranteed contracts, got their payments June 1st. So it is nice that the WNBA is at least paying their players, even though the season hasn't started yet. It's just such a weird time for all these players. I mean, yes, they make a lot of money. They make a lot of money to do what they do, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that not playing or not having an entire season is something that's like financially acceptable for a lot of these people. So they still have families to support. They still have people that depend on them and their income. So, it's definitely not something that is ideal for any family at all to go without like an entire season of work. So I just hope that something good comes of all of this. There's also talk of MLB creating a schedule that the players abide to. I think that I was talking with a good friend that works at a major sports network, and both of us agree that a lot of the MLB players probably won't be playing. Don't blame them for that. It's just not safe, and money is the object, obviously, for a lot of these owners, and they just don't care. The players are the ones putting themselves on the line for the owners to make all of that money. So, I don't know as far as you guys as listeners go, but I, as a sports fan and a former athlete, I definitely side with the players on this one. I mean, I think that we need to be smart. We need to, the coming seasons won't happen if athletes aren't healthy. So I think that gets overlooked from time to time as far as the bigger picture goes. So, like I said, a few different talking points there, but hopefully some good stuff comes of these leagues starting back up, players getting to play the games that they love, and hopefully sports can give us the unity that we need to see. Not necessarily distraction, but definitely a way to pull people from different cultures together and have something positive to talk about. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, if you did not already, you should go check out the secret segment 10-question bonus interview with Nitzan Bluvstein, and then come back because her interview to talk about want, not need fun is going in right here. So stay tuned. Hello. Sports Talk Mostly podcast is back with our episode 9 interview guest. This is Nitz. She is a freelancer, mostly well known with The Athletic. She's in the segment The Daily Dings. And also recently just started a fund called Want Not Need Fund. And that's going to be kind of the basis of our topics today. But Nitz, go ahead, say hello to the audience, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Nitz. I am a person. We talked about this like offline and like on the other segment, which is secret, so I won't say anything. But I have no idea how to introduce myself. I freelance. I do things. I also talk sports occasionally, and then do a lot of other things. I like the sound of my own voice, and I recently started Want Not Need Fund, which has just been like I'm allowed to cuss on this one too, right?
Yeah, go for it.
So it's just been like the coolest fucking thing because I mean, we could get into it in a little bit, but it was one of those, we know the power of Twitter and social media and the following that we amass for nothing. But I think this was really like the hit. Sorry, I'm like trying not to be distracted, but my boyfriend's walking across the room. Anyways.
Hi, boyfriend.
That's my boyfriend. But yeah.
What he said?
He's grabbing his food. Yeah. It's all good.
All right. So to start, and I know a little bit about you, but obviously I'm interviewing you because the audience probably doesn't. So talk a little bit about your personal background and upbringing and your journey to where you are now as far as geographically.
Yeah, I've lived in, well, I think it's a ton of places. Then I talk to people that have really lived in a ton of places. I'm like, maybe not. But I was I was born in Israel in Tel Aviv. My dad's job and really like by pressure of my parents moved us to California when I was like around 8.5, 9. I was in the Bay Area for basically that whole time, college in California, et cetera, et cetera. And then sorry, 1 second. He's moving across the room. And then, my bad. Anyways, then we moved back. So we moved to California. And then I, at one point, really felt like I wanted to go back to Israel. I moved back to Israel after college. I did something called Aliyah, which means to go up. And it's like a very official government thing where they give you government assistance to move back. And it's a whole thing that I'm not even going to get into. It didn't work. It was dope. I put in a lot of effort to do it. It didn't work out. I think that was one of my first real experiences with like accepting failure, that like something you so desperately wanted just wasn't the right fit for you.
Right.
And I didn't know where to go next. So I had a friend in New York. I literally bought a ticket, put my 30-day notice on my lease in Israel, and then moved to New York, slept on her couch. I had like 30 days to find a job so that I could afford rents and didn't have to move back home to the Bay. I found a job. I was with them for 4 years. And then 2 or 3 years into it, I moved to LA to work for the same company.
Uh-huh.
And then now I've been freelancing for literally a year now. A year and like 20 days and something. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And now, sorry, that was like a lot of information.
No,
that's the story of how I ended up in LA, which is just, the basketball world is here. So it's kind of like the natural progression to be closer to friends and the industry, etc.
Right. So for those of you who missed it, Nitz talked on the secret segment about how old she was when she learned English. Talk a little bit about that and how old you were and your kind of, obviously you had to learn English because your family moved over here, but talk a little bit about what that was like for you and those cultural changes.
Well, it sucked because English is like the worst language to learn.
So stupid.
There's no rules behind it. And Hebrew is, I don't know which one, how people are like, it's a Latin language. I don't know what the hell Hebrew is, but Hebrew has rules. So I know that there's like, this is for female, this is for male. This is like, if there's a root of the word, I could use that root of the word to describe another thing that relates to it. Whereas English is just like memorization essentially.
Yeah.
And things like, there's just a ton of exceptions that I had a really hard time getting used to, and ESL programs aren't properly funded. So I just remember moving like the first day of 3rd grade. So in Israel, at least when you're like in elementary school, there's only one break for lunch and school days are shorter. Mm-hmm. Here you have recess, then you have lunch. So First break of the day. I'm a dumb little third grader. What do I know? I grab my lunch because I'm like, well, it's the one break that we have. And the teacher takes it away from me and is like, no, not yet, later. And I just bawled my eyes out because I have no idea what this woman is telling me. I'm just like, this woman took my food. I ran to all of my friends in the yard and I'm like crying my eyes out. None of them know what's happening. They're all crying their eyes out. And it was just like, and they were all, I grew up in, luckily, like the Bay Area has hella Israeli immigrants. So it was easy to just like speak Hebrew to people. And
Right.
then I got kicked out of, not kicked out, I got pushed out of ESL because they could only like really sponsor or whatever. There were only like one program for the year. So I did it in third grade. Fourth grade moved into normal English speaking, which was a nightmare because
Yeah.
I didn't know English. And I remember I had a very terrifying teacher who was tenured and just like yelled a lot and just
Oh,
wouldn't do anything about it. And he told us to write every other line. And I don't know what that's like, who the
what is
fuck? Yeah, I barely knew what line was, sir. So like he was like, write every other line, and I didn't do it, and he yelled at me and just like wouldn't take my paper, and I had no idea what was going on until I like had to ask friends like, what the fuck did I do wrong? So not the best experience. And
right?
then, I would say the biggest cultural difference when you're a kid moving here is everybody knows that stupid bill song. That's like how to what I don't know what the song is. It's about a bill. That's all. What? No. Oh, is it? It's when a
I'm
bill
trying
is,
to tell you the
yeah, he's
song.
trying to tell me what it is. It's literally when a bill is like how to create a bill or something, and it's a dancing animated bill.
Oh, are you talking about the government how to create a bill song?
Yes, 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 yes. Everybody knew that, and I'm like, what is happening? And I know that that's a really dumb cultural gap, but it was this moment of like, you guys all grew up on this stuff. I grew
Yep.
up on in a completely different world, mind you, during like the second
Another
Intifada.
less.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So there was a lot to like assimilate to, but eventually, my accent caught up, my English caught up, and I'm still not fully culturally caught up on anything, but
I mean, aren't any of us really? Come
no.
on. Like, no, I was gonna say your English is really great. Like, I feel like for a lot of people that meet you now, do they even really realize that you are an Israeli immigrant unless you tell them? Or
No. I
yeah,
also like with Israelis, I don't necessarily look Israeli. I think people say that I look Jewish, which comes with its own host of things that I would get into, but too much time.
yeah,
Um, I don't, I don't look Israeli. So people don't necessarily know.
right.
Um,
I
but I would
relate to
say,
that Pacific Islander. A lot of people are like, "You don't look Pacific Islander," and I'm like,
oh, yeah, exactly. People are like, well, you don't. And I'm like, well, sucks, buddy, because I grew up there. So like, I still am. Like, I'm sorry to like break it to you. But there's always that like, you're half and half because nobody believes you that you're like from a certain place, but also like Americans say like you're not fully American, but then Israelis will be like you're not fully Israeli. So it's a lot of like, okay,
"What am I then?"
yeah, I'm a Twitter user. That's the best way.
Love the ocean.
I'm just gonna chill here on my little boat and just like have no country. I don't know.
Foot
Who
in
cares?
American territory, the other foot in Eastern European territory.
Yeah, there you go. I'm from my whatever. I don't really know where I'm at, what I am, but I'm technically Eastern European. Who the hell knows?
Right, right. I know. It's so
Yeah.
funny. So yeah, so many technical terms. Too much PC for me. I can't deal with it. You mentioned a little bit ago moving to LA just to be closer to basketball and obviously NBA, you know, people and professions and things like that. What do you think drew you to sports the most as you grew up, even through living in Israel?
Well, my dad was a huge basketball fan, and my dad's one of my best friends. The other one is my mom. So, like not to be lame, but they are my best friends.
I love that.
So it was like an easy way to bond with him. And then when I moved to Israel, it was just like a very, very easy way to keep in touch with everyone. Like all of my friends grew up huge Warriors fans, a lot of them huge Lakers fans. The stereotype with the Bay Area can be true, whatever. So like,
Okay, Anna, Melissa, and Vic,
yeah.
whatever.
Oh, I love them. They're not from the Bay, but that's true. But then
They're huge Lakers fans.
huge Lakers fans. So so whatever, it was an easy time. It was an easy way to keep in touch. And then the time that I moved, I think it was a 2014-2015 season. So the Warriors, were having their first championship in like 40 years. Everyone in the Bay was so excited about it. So like keeping in touch with the Bay and like everyone. And then I moved to New York, and I was like, well, this is super cool, but I want to, instead of just being a Warriors fan, I want to be like an NBA fan. So I did little Knicks things here and there, and I like did like Knicks, like, like blog social. I did the Knicks wall for a little bit, things like that. And it just like,
Right.
I became obsessed with the sport as a whole and not just my team. And then it was also just a good way to like, during those Warrior seasons where they were so good that it was almost like obnoxious to watch, I had like little pet teams like the Blazers, where I'd be like, go Blazers and go Raptors and things.
My boys, the Blazers.
That's why I love Blazers fans. And that's how I pick a pet team. It sounds so dumb, but I pick a pet team to root for. And like the Blazers were it like a couple of years ago. So and you guys have such a great fandom that it was easy to just like bond with everyone.
Totally. Yeah. Blazers Twitter is the best, honestly. And I know it was a rumor for a while before we actually acquired and signed Melo, but I was like so proud of Blazers front office when they made that signing, because to hear those rumblings as a Blazers fan, and obviously we have the Sam Bowie curse, the Greg Oden curse. So to hear...
Oh, you're just like listing curses. That is very Blazers fan.
The fact that I can list more than one is awful. Mm-hmm. But to hear those rumblings and then actually have it come to fruition was like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Like something finally, as a Blazers fan, to be like ecstatic about. And not that Dame and DJ aren't anything to be ecstatic about, but when you have somebody like Melo, who brings that experience and the name to Portland, to a place that has always passed on the people with the name.
Okay.
It's like, okay, this is...
So were you excited on a basketball level too? Did you think that he would work? Because I think he's worked out like pretty well for you guys, honestly. Did you think that it was going to work out that way when you guys signed him?
I personally did, but a lot of people did not.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the chemistry between like the team of Melo and Dame with their veteran leadership for the other guys has been such a good combination, especially amidst Nurk and Zach being hurt, that we really needed somebody with a little bit more height that could also be a shooter and give Hassan his due. You know what I mean?
Were you worried about the defense at all? In terms, it's not adding a lot defensively.
A little bit, but I think that I think a little bit with Melo, he's driven by the loyalty and the love that he feels from his teammates. And I think that his relationship with Dame has a lot to do with the effort that Melo has put into playing defense. Because that was like the number one thing that I heard from Nuggets fans and Knicks fans was like, yeah, have fun with that. Like, he doesn't play defense, but he's proved to actually be putting in the work in Portland. It's not like
he wants to be in the NBA. Like, I think he really he just wants to be in the NBA, and he obviously works harder. He wouldn't even be, he wouldn't be the greatness that he already was / is. And guys love playing with Melo. Yeah. So I was skeptical. I was on the other end, but people that I really trusted were like, nah, this is going to work out. Like, I'm hearing his mindset's completely different. It's going to work out. And I mean, it worked out until the season got canceled, but
I know.
Who knows?
That's how it always is with the Blazers. Like, whenever we have a good thing going, there's always like something drastic happens, right? Like, it's just...
You guys and Clippers fans have that in common. A lot of Clippers fans are like, this would be the year. I'm like, well, I can't help you, buddy.
Well, you don't win championships with would-be's. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry.
Gotta be a could be. So when did you know or like have an idea? I'm sure it was probably like many of us that are within NBA and basketball. It was probably pretty early on. But when did you know that sports journalism and like sports freelancing was where you wanted to be career-wise?
I think I still don't know, to be honest with you. Like, if we're being completely transparent, I love sports. I think that I fell into a lot of it almost because I can't like totally name what it was, but let's just say before I had a Twitter, I tried out for this basketball show that was pretty like well known ish, at least like within digital circles. And I didn't get it, but I made it all the way to the final round, and it was just this like sort of exhilarating feeling where I was like, damn, I could just be on camera and just talk sports. That's so cool. So then I kind of told myself, well, I feel like if I had more of a name, this opportunity, I would have like been in a better position to get it beyond talent and more so also on like, being a person with a platform.
Yeah.
So I built the platform off of making too many jokes, and then it's obviously like evolved with me in terms of like the way that I use it and, just what I decide to talk about. And I think with everything that's happened recently, it's been this sort of wake up call of like, I don't know what I want to do with sports necessarily in the long term, but it's always been good to me. So I think, I don't know how to say this in like a totally eloquent way, but there's something nice about being able to keep something you love as a fandom.
Yeah.
And less as like yeah, I don't know if I necessarily always want it to be the rent payer, but the best advice I've ever gotten from someone is like, always be questioning what you want to do. Like, you don't have to be completely sure in yourself 24/7, and that's how you grow. And if you feel like you're in a position that's ever like you're not growing, or you're not happy with it anymore, or the industry or whatever. And I'm not saying that's the case for sports, but I'm saying that that's like with everything that's been going on, it's been on my mind, and I'm just like, we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think that is actually a really fresh perspective on it, because I think in a way, I feel like you've described pretty much everybody that has a career in sports, is that for all of us, it started as a hobby. It started as something that we talked about because we saw a super exciting game one day, and then from then we just couldn't stop watching. You know what I mean? So in a way, I feel like almost everybody in sports journalism or sports reporting, however you see it, their careers are almost always undefined in a way. Because I mean, like, look at Erin Andrews, for example. Like, she started with ESPN, was one of the most popular reporters ever for ESPN, and now she's over with Fox News, and like nobody ever talks about her. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those things where, as a journalist or sports hobbyist, however you look at it, you kind of have to always be ready to evolve, because the leagues and how sports are covered are always evolving too.
Sure. And it's never linear. Like, I think that's there was a podcast that discussed it, and I'm not a journalist by any means. I occasionally talk on a podcast, which is super fun, but there used to be more of like a not direct path, but more of a clear path, whereas now it's like everybody has their own way of making it into sports, and like there's so many avenues for you to be a part of sports, and you're right, it's like completely undefined right now, which is, oh my god, it was a Capri Sun straw thing. It's okay. I'm so glad this is on video. But yeah. So that was my professional advice. Ignore the Capri Sun. Professional people drink Capri Sun too. But yeah, it's undefined, and I think, you never just, if you're somebody that's looking to get into sports journalism, I'm not the best person to give anybody advice, but I'll say the best advice that was ever given to me in any sort of entertainment profession is like, keep creating, keep working, keep, putting yourself out there, and the opportunities should hopefully present themselves.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I feel like the best advice I was ever given is, in a nutshell, to kind of just go for it. Like, whatever it is that you think you want to do in sports, or, whatever you want to talk about in sports, to just go for it. I mean, like, this podcast is a really, really good example of that, considering the fact that I still don't have a microphone, but here I am on episode. You know what I mean?
I love that.
I actually do have the microphone. It's just the software to get the microphone to the computer screwed me. So it was
I stopped trying to use like the crazy, I'm just on my headphones. Like, at this point, I've given up.
Yeah. So it was like that. Exactly. I had to just kind of go with it and just do it, because the longer you wait, the longer it's going to be until you get to where you want to be. So you kind of just have to go and just start talking about it, because eventually the right people are going to hear you.
Yep.
So,
I mean, I think about like Mindy Kaling, and this is not sports at all.
yeah.
Mindy Kaling, and please don't quote me because I read her book so long ago, but she talked about, and I mean, I love the Mindy Project and I loved her on The Office, obviously, but she talked about how she was essentially discovered for just putting on a play with friends in, I think, New York City, and then people liked it, and that led to her eventually getting the job on The Office, which obviously led to all of her other big breaks. Like, you really just you don't know, and like, you know, your work is being discussed in rooms when you don't even know it. So just keep creating content. As long as you're enjoying yourself, that should really be just like the key.
So true. And I think it shines through in your content or whatever you're talking about, or if you're writing blogs or doing vlogs or, you know, making sports content with people, you know, images of players or something like that. Like, whatever it is you're doing, if you think that it's sick and dope, it's gonna like shine through. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Exactly.
And I fully agree with that. And I also actually think that is, well, on my assumption, is probably a little bit of what led you to want, not need. Am I wrong to say that?
In terms of creating things?
Yeah.
So want, not need was so, well, okay. let me tell you about want, not need. So it basically started with, I saw a giving thread on Twitter, and I wanted to buy myself a coffee maker, but I was like, okay, instead of buying myself a coffee maker, I'm going to donate the money that I would have spent. And also, wait, okay, I have some more disposable funds. Let me just donate them to individuals. I got DMs of people, and you know, none of these were crazy amounts. It was like $50 per person. And then one of them DM'd me with a picture of all the groceries that she was able to buy. And she was like, I was able to buy all of this, and I bought medicine for my dad. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, that was the cost of the coffee maker, essentially.
Wow.
Which just like, I, you know, I think I've always tried to make sure that I'm giving something, but I never thought about it in the concept of like, there's this material item I really maybe wanted, but just genuinely didn't need. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take it as a personal habit. I can see like how far a dollar stretches. So instead of, you know, I'm going to try to donate the cost or a percentage of cost of an item that I know that I could afford and I want, but I really don't need it. And especially now, you know, I'm locked down in this house very fully. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I really don't need shoes. I really don't need another coffee maker. I'm literally so caffeinated right now. So that's obviously like the best example. So I talked to Shivani about it, who's my co-founder, and she was like, Shivani's the most incredible person. Please follow her on Twitter, Shivani Banfal. I really hope I didn't mess up, but it's Shivani and then Banfal.
Okay.
I'll whatever. I'll figure it out. But one of the most amazing people. She's been an activist and organizer for like 5 years, so she knows. And she was just like, this is dope. Let's like actually talk about it. And we decided to blow it up and make it into like a full blown thing. And I think we didn't know how people would resonate with it at all in terms of like, donate the cost. You know, it's supposed to be a habit similar to like pay it forward, where it's very easy, like not a ton of money at a time, just like $5 here and there adds up. And people resonated with it so much that we had to like essentially change the rotation and the funding rounds that we do. Because at first we were like, every week we're going to fund one organization and we're going to rotate every week. But we were raising so much money that we were like, well, damn, we could just split it between the 5 orgs and give them like $1,000 at a time, which is a lot of money to the orgs that we choose because they're smaller, grassroots, don't have the national attention. You know, especially with COVID relief, a lot of them are just food assistance, housing assistance. Like $1,000 goes a really long way.
Yeah.
And it all comes from really small donations. So it's just been, neither one of us knew that this was going to like actually be
a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's so awesome too, because for somebody like me who, I grew up most of my life with a single mom, and for somebody like me who I always saw that single mom, despite our obstacles and hardships, she was always, you know, volunteering. She was always buying, you know, picking names off Christmas trees to give, you know, Christmas presents to the, you know, less fortunate, and you know, all these different things that I watched my mom do to give back to the community through growing up. Somebody like me finds a little less meaning in doing something as simple as, I'm going to pay for the person behind me's coffee in line today.
Right.
Because the way I see it is, somebody who's going to get coffee usually does that pretty regularly. And to buy their coffee isn't really meaningful to them because it's something they do every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So to have a little bit more of an impact on giving, not that randomly paying for somebody's coffee isn't a nice gesture, it doesn't really help
Sure.
what's needed.
I was gonna say, like, you're inching towards the fact that how does our giving actually maximize the impact, which is
Yeah,
like why, trusting community organizers is always they're in their community, they know how to stretch the dollar, and they know what the community needs.
yeah.
So that's where like the impact goes the furthest. So for sure.
Yeah, and that's why that's what was so, I think, endearing to me and so intriguing about what you guys put together with Want Not Need, is because not only did I see that you were kind of trying to adjust, and you said, you guys did some things with COVID, and you guys have donated to some of the Black Lives Matter organizations and some of the people that have been at protests and helping with protesters and things like that. And so I think that, like you said, to be aware of these different groups that are finding specific needs within communities makes so much more of an impact than just like, buying somebody's random coffee behind you. Like I said, not
100%.
that that's not a great gesture, but to actually give back and make a difference in a community, or in a community that you're a part of, something like Want Not Need is like profound, I think.
Oh,
So
thank you.
yeah, no, I think that what you guys are doing is so great. And so to kind of close out the episode, talk a little bit about um, what other types of organizations you guys are going to be working with down the road, so that the audience can kind of keep their eyes out and potentially follow the fund so that they can be a part of those.
Sure. So we haven't picked any specific organizations right now, but we kind of go by based on immediate need.
Yep.
So it started with COVID relief, and mind you, COVID relief is going to be a necessary thing for us to keep in the back of our mind for a while.
Right.
We've committed to working with at least one organization every single rotation that goes directly to the Black community and the long-term effects of police brutality. Or for example, we're talking about looking into organizations that are doing legal aid right now and trying to just I don't even have to explain to people. If you're even online a little bit, you understand what's going on. There's bail funds that actually still need some cash. So there's just like keeping our pulse in terms of what the need is, which is why I feel so lucky that Shivani is in this with me, because I'm not as dialed into this world, where she has her ears on the ground in terms of like, is it food assistance? Is it legal aid? Is it shelter? Like, what is the current need? And we work on 2-week rotations, so it's easy for us to just like blah blah blah. And we're also like, we're still in the process of 501c3, but we're not very, how do I say this without sounding, because this is like a positive thing. We're not like, here are the rules, we have to do it this way. Because for example, we're in the middle of we're 1 week into our 2-week rotation right now, but we are working with 2 activists and organizers in Chicago that are running food banks, and are just literally like going and getting groceries and making food and giving it to students. And they needed some support now. So we were like, here, like, we don't even have to wait for the 2 weeks. Please, like, go whatever way we could support. And these are just individuals out of their own pocket trying to make a difference. And that's really what we're all about, is like please, and like anybody that we can help, really, and like, in what way can we help you. And we're always looking for nominations on our website. Like, if you work with an organization that could use some funding, like, come to us.
Perfect. I was just gonna ask that.
Yep. Like, we love nominations. Again, like, we don't, we can't know possibly every single amazing person that's doing work out there. We were so lucky that the organizers in Chicago knew Shivani and knew to reach out to her. But otherwise, like, on wantnotneedfund.com, you could nominate organizations. Yeah. And I encourage everyone to, because I want to keep this going for as long as humanly possible. So we're going to run through a lot of organizations.
Yeah, definitely. Well, do know that you guys have a lifelong supporter in myself and Sports Talk Mostly podcast. So
thank you.
Anything that you guys need to come on and talk about, if you need us to post something, retweet something, anything like that, please let us know, because I totally dig what you guys are doing. I think it's awesome, and I also think that it creates a really positively introspective way for somebody to really ask themselves what they need, and if what they need is really that important, because I think our society is so stuck on material and let me fix this and let me fix that, and it's like, do you really need to fix that, or do you really need a new one?
Right. And it's a
So
lot of like, now that, because, you know, in general, we could talk all day. And I think wants do make our life beautiful. Like, I always try to add that like, wants add, you know, they add life to our life. I know that's a really dumb sentence, but they do, like, they give us joy, and that's fucking beautiful. However, like, especially now with the discrepancy between the things that you want and the things that you really need are just so great. Like, really, you're right. It's about that self-reflection. And, you know, ultimately, even if want not need fund becomes a habit for someone and they're using that habit to donate to an organization that has nothing to do with us, fuck yeah, I don't care.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's about a habit, it's not about us.
Well, and I think to go along with what you were saying about like the wants and how they add life to your life, it's also a very fine line between wanting something because you want to grow a little bit or maybe explore something, and wanting something out of insecurity or trying to make yourself feel better. And I think our society places so much value on the material things, and um uh like retail therapy and like shopping as a form of like, oh, I'm sad or I had a bad day, so let me go shop or go.
Which relatable, I do that all the time. I used
I
to.
do
I used
too.
to. And then I
I
stopped.
do too. And
Uh,
that's like, you guys made me think just by like talking about your fun. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things that I think, like I said, to be positively introspective and really ask a person, do I want this because am I really trying to like fulfill a need or fulfill something that it can help me long term? Even if I want it, is it something that's going to be, if I buy this coffee maker, to use your example, is it like, how is this going to benefit me a year from now? You know what I mean?
sure.
It's
And then,
disposable purchase.
and then also, like, if you know, if your answer to that question is like, well, I don't like, I just kind of like, I had like a fleeting want for it, then okay, cool. But you've already in your mind parted with that $50. So you
Yep.
know that you can afford it. So like put it towards something else, or even a percentage of it, because I get it. Like, we're not trying to like burden people financially. It's really about like recognizing the little times throughout the day where you spend like $5 here, or mind you, I was playing like Bubble Shooter or whatever it's called, and I was spending a ton of money on extra lives. So
Yeah.
like things like that like maybe I should just be better at the game, and then I can donate the money. I stopped playing. I deleted it off my phone. I sucked. But
Oh,
I played it for
so
hours.
funny, because you
Hours.
just totally blindly called me out with Farmville.
Oh, wait, does far I have never played, but do they like, is it a lot of like inner purchase, whatever?
Yeah, it's so
It's
stupid
so
and addicting.
It's how they get you. You're like, I would never pay for an app, but then there's, oh my God, wait, there's this one called like Stack, I think, and you literally, it's so, I'm so good, but I spent way too many hours playing that. But because I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to watch all these ads. Now I'm paying to just not have the ads, so I could just like mindlessly. Anyways, so it's about recognizing the moments where you're behaving like me, and you're
Yeah.
like, well, maybe, you know, $2 could go here. And now if you do that once a week, $2 a week is not a lot for a lot of people that have that type of disposable income. But then it's like $8 a month to us means a lot more, because that could pay for food.
Hmm.
So that's,
And $8 on top of somebody else's 20, and somebody else's 15, and somebody else's 50, and somebody
exactly,
else's 5. It adds up
like,
quick.
we've never, you know, the biggest, well, actually, that's a lie. The biggest donation we've gotten is pretty sizable. Shout out to someone that was literally like, here's my sneaker budget. And I'm like, eh. But, you know, sizable for the week. People that have sneaker budgets for the week is like the perfect example of just like, you really don't need sneakers right now. The funniest donation we got was like, this is all the money I would have spent on Tinder dates if I didn't get banned from Tinder 2 years ago. This is one of my like best friends from home. He got banned on Twitter 2 years ago, and he's just like, well, this is what I think I would have spent. I'm like, man, like, you're the best, and this is all in the same spirit.
That's
But yeah, exactly. Like, it stacks on top of each other, $5, $10 here and there. Like one person was donating all the money that they weren't spending on iced coffee for the week. They did that for 2 weeks, and that right there was 40 something dollars, which
Wow.
is a lot of money for, communities that are just trying to like feed people.
Totally.
So yeah, anyways.
Totally. Yeah, no, I agree. I love it. And thank you so much for coming on to talk about that. And please make sure to send me your co-founder's info so I can make sure to plug both of
Yes.
you guys in the description for the show and stuff like that. But since NBA is making a comeback, we traditionally sign off all guest interviews with a prediction. And so I'm going to make you do it.
Like who's going to be the champion?
Going to take playoffs this year. Who's going to be our NBA champ of COVID-19 2020?
Well, I'm still hoping that the league cancels the season, but I don't think it's safe. And I hate that we're compromising health for entertainment, but I'm gonna say Lakers.
Side note, before you answer the prediction question, I'm just really curious. Also, I'm not even 100% sure if they are actually even part of the teams that made it through, but if the Jazz are playing, like, does anybody even want to play with Rudy Gobert?
I was hearing so many conflicting reports about, I don't know if guys still blame him. I don't know. Like, we heard reports that are like, they're blaming him, they're not blaming him. I have no idea. I also think that all these guys are professional, so like they will play.
Yeah.
If they, and so many of them want to play basketball, and they're a team at the end of the day. But I'm gonna say Lakers. I really like.
I knew you would say that.
Yeah, I started off the season pretty skeptical, and I was very like, it's gonna be the Clippers, but I could see Clippers, Lakers, or Bucks. Like I really just don't know. But let's just say Lakers.
You say that because I did start off the season out of the Clippers and the Lakers. I thought the Clippers would be better this season. And now I'm like, man, I am of the crowd that would not complain to see the Lakers take the championship because beloved passed away. But I don't know. As a Blazers, and I'm like, can I say that? Is that allowed?
Yeah, screw it. We're at a point where like we just want good basketball. Even actually, I don't want basketball at all right now. I want safe basketball. But if we have to get basketball, hopefully it'll be good basketball.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, well, it's on recording, so we'll see how your answer pans out.
Yeah, I love it. I love every time you do like anybody that does like a prediction thing. I'm like, well, damn it, like it's gonna be wrong. And then everyone's going to be like, here's a clip of you saying it. I'm like, okay.
It's okay, because if anybody tries to give you shit, you just go ahead and direct them to my Christmas Day predictions.
What was your Christmas?
I went,
But Christmas Day was crazy. The Warriors beat the Rockets. Didn't really beat the Bucks. Right. Okay, but give yourself, like, honestly, don't feel bad about that one, because Christmas Day was actually insane. And
the only one I got right was the Warriors winning.
Wait, you predicted? That's crazy. I thought it was going to be, the Rockets are good and the Warriors sucked, and whatever. That was so funny. What a great day for me. Anyways. Great day.
Well, thank you again so much for your time and coming on here. We appreciate you. And hopefully we'll get to interview you guys again soon for doing more awesome things.
Thank you so much. It was so fun. Thank you.
Bye. Yes. God, I hope you guys like that interview with Nitz. She is just such a ball of joy. I love her personality so much. Definitely also please go follow her co-founder, and her fund, Want Not Need Fund, on Twitter and Instagram. I'm definitely going to try to plug their social media in the description down below in the video, podcast, wherever you're listening to. Check the description for their info. Please and thank you so much, because they're doing such amazing things and using their platforms for such good. So this is definitely the type of stuff we love to see, type of stuff I love to see as the host of Sports Talk Mostly podcast. That is the reason why the podcast is called Sports Talk Mostly, so that people within sports can use the sports platform to talk about other things that they do in life. And that honestly kind of brings us to the culture aspect of the episode. I'm sure a lot of you guys can guess, but the biggest culture related thing that is going on right now around sports is Black Lives Matter. I have a black man on my shirt today. The sports that we talk about, basketball, football, baseball, track, I mean, those are the majority. Hockey is another one. Obviously, black people are a minority within hockey, but there is so much diversity within hockey that it just goes right along with it. That there's so many athletes that their talents alone allow white people to succeed and allow white people to make a living, that I personally believe that if you're working in sports and you're not standing up for Black lives, that you're a walking contradiction. And frankly, it's one of those things for me. It's not a matter of disagreement. This isn't talking about whether or not you like or dislike coffee. It's not talking about whether or not you like or dislike chocolate. This is a human rights issue. And frankly, if you disagree with me, it's personal. I love to see athletes like Damian Lillard, DeMar DeRozan. I mean, there's been handfuls of them out there literally, physically, on the streets protesting next to their fans and the people that look up to them, the people that scrutinize them, the people that say, oh, if he can't make that free throw, I'm not going to, pay attention to him or root for him. They were out there protesting with those types of people. And at the end of the day, when you have an athlete that is out there protesting for those types of things, people's opinion on the way that they play their preferred sport is fucking irrelevant, to be honest with you. At that point, it literally only matters that they're using their platform to do good, to promote equality, to promote change of a deeply rooted systemic issue that our country was built upon. And as Americans, if you are a sports fan, the Black Lives Matter movement should be relevant to you. And, I think Kyrie Irving had really good intentions to say that, right now it's not the time for basketball and all of those things. I see that. But like I said, at the news portion of the episode, I really think that this is a time where not to use basketball as a distraction, but to use basketball as a tool to show that unity is possible, as a tool to show that people of different cultures and different backgrounds can come together and unite for a common goal. I think basketball and sports in general is a really, really good example of that. And I hope that these men, LeBron, Kelly Oubre, Spencer Dinwiddie, Damian Lillard, all of these guys, I'm trying to think of the guys who are the biggest, most popular guys on their team. They're going to be using this television time and this interview time to talk about these issues. And I think that that is so important. And that if basketball is going to come back right now, that those guys should be able to have that platform to talk about what's important to them. And that kind of brings me to my next point in the Black Lives Matter topic realm, is Colin Kaepernick. And again, ties back to sports. And if you guys have been following me for a while, you probably know my stance on this. I am am and was and have been and will be a huge Colin Kaepernick supporter. He was highly misunderstood. His reasoning and his intent was highly misunderstood. And there was multiple people who completely misconstrued his intent in kneeling and completely overlooked how he came to that decision and are now seeing what Colin Kaepernick was referring to. And that's not bad. It's not bad to see someone's perspective and to finally understand it, but it's bad to have been a part of the brigade that said, get that son of a bitch off the field, and now are in the Black Lives Matter brigade without even owning up to any of the negativity that you were co-signing in the past. Like I said, it's great to change your stance, but also take accountability for the misinformation that you were siding with. You know, there's a lot of people out there who are football fans that were like, this is not the time and place, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, I agree with him, but it's not the time and place. You know what I mean? It's like, well, if you agree with them, then let him say what he has to say. Who cares where he says it? Who cares if it's his job? Like, oh, shut up and do your job. It's like, what was her name? Laura Graham or Laura Ingraham or whatever the hell her name is. I'm probably going to get grilled for not knowing, but the Fox News anchor that told LeBron, shut up and dribble. I mean, it's the same shit. Nobody likes when they kneel. Nobody likes when they wear an I can't breathe shirt. You don't like when they burn down your building. So how the hell are black people supposed to get your attention and supposed to get you to understand why they're kneeling? So that's my take on it. Obviously, I hugely side with Black Lives and the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't think it's up for misinterpretation. I think it's a very straightforward thing. You either support it or you don't. And I really want to take this moment and this episode to elevate that and to draw attention to the fact that this podcast wouldn't exist without Black Lives. So please understand that when you're listening to my show and when you're listening to my opinions. And please know that I will always acknowledge Black lives and I will always make a space for Black voices. And if you guys didn't, please go check out episode 8, which was called The Lost Episode with Avery Owens. He's a very amazing, very professional Black designer with FanDuel and also a very good friend of mine. So please go check out episode 8. I know it's been a little tumultuous since COVID-19 closures, but episode 8 was what what was going on in the world before COVID-19 happened, and then everything shut down, and I didn't even have time to blink to put out the rest of the episode with it. I just put out the interview, put it out last week. So go check that out. And please remember that this podcast and this platform will always be a space for Black voices around sports and sports culture. So if you are, or if you know somebody who is that and would like to come on the podcast to talk about anything that they are doing, please send me a message, let me know. You can contact me on the Sports Talk Mostly podcast pages or my personal pages. Pretty responsive on either one. And thanks for listening as always. Sorry again, the episodes are going to be kind of short to start with, but just want to get back into the groove of things and make sure that I'm not rambling on topics, because hopefully you guys are starting to get back to working back in the gym. So I want to make sure I'm using your time wisely when you lend me your ear to listen to Sports Talk Mostly podcast. So again, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Nitz. Please go follow her and her co-founder and her fund, Want Not Need Fun, on all of their social media pages. And don't forget to subscribe to Sports Talk Mostly podcast on Patreon. That way you can check out the secret segment, 10 question edition, that I've added to the show. And hopefully you guys can get to know the interview guests just a little bit better on a personal level. So, again, thanks for listening. I love you all. Black Lives Matter.